Hello, in this video you're going to learn how to code Flappy Bird in Unreal Engine from a completely blank project. We'll go over how to make a character which can die and a game over system, and we'll also go over how you can make a save system which will basically save the player's high score, and you'll learn how to create menu systems and more. And if you want to learn how to create even more full games inside of Unreal Engine, make sure to check out my website. There'll be a link to it somewhere in the description of this video. Recently, I added a new course there where you'll learn how to create an FPS game from complete scratch in Unreal Engine. With that said, let's get into the video. To get started, I'm in the Unreal project browser and we're going to create this game from a blank project. So I've just selected blank as my template, and for my project name, I'm just going to call this Flappy Game. Then we can create it. So when working with Unreal Engine, I normally like to have my content browser be here. This allows me to easily access all of the assets inside of my project. If you don't have this here, we just want to click the content drawer, then click dock and layout, and this will make it permanently here. So the first thing we're going to do is create the new level for our Flappy Bird game. So inside of my content folder, I'm just going to right click, create a new folder, and just call this maps. Then if I head inside here, to create a new map/level, if we just go File, New Level, then select Basic, and then go Create, then we just want to save this level. So to do this, we can click this Save icon. It will ask us where we want to save the level. I'm just going to go to my Maps folder, and I'm just going to call this the level, and save this. So when making our Flappy Bird game, we're going to use some assets to help us make this game. So if we just go over to the Content folder, right click, and create another new folder, I'll just call this Assets. Now attached somewhere in the description of this video, I'm going to make sure to include a link to some assets. If you want to follow along, make sure to download them, then just drag and move all of them into this folder. Then to keep things organized, inside of this folder, create a new folder and just call this SFX, and drag all of the sound effects into this folder. Then create another new folder and just call this character, and just drag the Tappy Chicken character into this folder. Then create another new folder and just call this level, and just drag these two images into this level folder. So the first thing we're going to do is set up the character that we're going to play the game as. So if we just go over to the character folder and select this texture/chicken image. Right now, if you just open it up, you'll see it's a bit blurry. In order to fix this, just right click and go Sprite Actions and apply paper to the texture settings. This will make it so the image is clear. The next thing we're going to do is split up this image. We can do this inside of Unreal Engine by right clicking and going Sprite Actions and just go Extract Sprites. This will basically automatically extract all of the sprites in this image. We can just go Extract, and that will do it for us. Then we want to basically make this an animation. To do this, if we just select these last three sprites, right click, then go Create Flipbook, and just call this chicken fly, and this will just turn this into a flipbook. To control the frame rate of this, we can go here where it says frames per second, and if I make this something like 5, then it'll be a lot slower, and if I make this 60, then it'll be a lot faster. I'm just going to make this 9. We can then save this. Then whilst we're here, just select this last sprite, right click and go Create Flipbook, and call it Chicken Death. Okay, so now that we set up the animations for our character, the next thing we're going to do is code our character. Go back to the content folder and create a new folder and just call this Blueprints. And to create our chicken character, just right click, go Blueprint Class, and select Pawn. So a pawn has the ability to receive input and be controlled. So just select Pawn and just call this the Chicken Blueprint. Open this up, and the first thing we want to do is go to Components and go Add, and look for a paper flipbook. Just call this the Chicken, and go to Sprite Source Flipbook, and just change this to be the Chicken Fly. Then we want our chicken to have some collision, so just go Add and look for a capsule collision. So the next thing we're going to do is just make it so this chicken fits in the capsule collision. So I'm just going to select the chicken, then select this anchor icon, and scale it up so it's 3. I know it's a bit small, so that's why we're just making it 3. And then we just want to select the capsule and change the capsule half height and the capsule radius so it fits around the chicken. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is add a camera, and that's going to be how we kind of see the chicken. So if we just go add and look for a spring arm, then just go select and rotate objects and rotate it so the spring arm is facing the chicken. Then with the spring arm selected, make sure it's selected, go add and look for a camera, and then just rotate the camera 90 degrees. This will make it so this camera is attached to the spring arm. Okay, with this we've set up the basics of the chicken character. Go compile and save. The next thing we want to do is just make it so we start the game off as this chicken character. So to do this, we're going to create a new game mode. So if we right click and go blueprint class, select a game mode base and just call this the Flappy Bird game mode. Inside of here we can control some of the starting settings for our game. Open this up and go to default pawn class and change this to be chicken. So this is going to be the pawn that we start the game off as. Compile and save this. Then we just want to go to window and select world settings, and then for this level the world settings are currently nothing. If we just drag in the Flappy Bird game mode, it'll make it so this level will have this game mode as its game mode. Inside of this level, if you go to the player start, this is going to be where in the game our player starts. So now if I click the play button, we start off the game as this character there. The next thing we need to do is make it so this chicken is affected by gravity, and whenever the player presses the left mouse button, the chicken is kind of launched up in the air a bit. So to achieve this, go back to the chicken blueprint, and we just want to select this chicken flipbook and drag it inside of the capsule. With this chicken flipbook selected, scroll down and make sure that this has no collision. Then go over to the capsule, and we just want to check simulate physics, and also just check this mass and make it have a mass of 1. So now this capsule is going to simulate physics. In order for this to work though, we just need to go over to the collision presets and change this to be a physics actor. Now if I go compile and save, when I play my game, my chicken should fall to the floor. Nice. The next thing we need to do is make it so when the player presses a button, the chicken is kind of launched up in the air a bit. So if we go back to the chicken blueprint and go over to the event graph, just right click and some free space, and I'm going to use the right mouse button. I'm not going to set up a whole input control system for this game because we're only going to have one control on it. So whenever the right mouse button is pressed, we're going to launch our character up in the air a bit. So if we just drag in the capsule, drag off here and look for set physics linear velocity, and just make sure it's 0 in all its axes. Then we just want to drag off here and look for add impulse, connect from here into here, and in the Z I found a value of 550 works pretty well. So now if we go compile and save and I play my game, when I press the right mouse button, my chicken should be launched in the air. With this system, I did find sometimes the chicken can get stuck. In order to prevent this, if we just go back to the chicken blueprint, select the capsule, scroll down and go to physics and go to constraints, we're basically going to constrain our chicken. So we only really want our chicken to rotate in the y-axis if it ever rotates. So just lock its rotation in the x and z, and then our chicken is only going to really move in the z-axis, which is this one here. I'm just going to make sure mine is back to 0. So we want to constrain its position in the x and y, and then go compile, and that will kind of prevent our chicken from getting stuck. So when our chicken is flying in the air, when it's moving up, we want to kind of apply a downwards force to it, which is going to kind of act as some artificial gravity. So to do this, go back to the chicken blueprint and to the event graph, and we're going to do this on event tick. So this will run every single frame. So event tick, we're just going to drag in our capsule again, drag off here and look for get physics linear velocity, connect this into here and for the return value, we can right click and split the structure pin. And we want to get the value in the Z. If this is ever greater than 0, that kind of means our character is moving up. So we just want to drag up here and look for a branch. And if that is true, then we just want to drag in our capsule again and add an impulse. And I found a value of -15 works pretty well. So we just go compile and I go play. When my character's falling, there'll be no impulse, but when I kind of flap up, there's going to be an impulse of -15, which is being applied to our character. So if you change the capsule weight, we made it 1, but if we change this, then it will kind of affect the game. So if I make this like 1,000, then, whoops, let me just play. I can't even flap because my bird's so heavy. So depending on the settings will kind of affect how much your character is going to move when you press the right mouse button. But I'm just going to change this back to 1. Okay, we can compile and save that. The next thing we're going to do is add the logs, which Flappy Bird is going to have to kind of fly through. So if we just go back to our assets folder, go over to the level, select both of these images, right click and go sprite actions and apply paper to the texture settings. Then just select this image, go sprite actions and go extract sprites and just go extract. So we're going to use this one. If we just select this log and just rename this the log sprite, and then I'm just going to select this one and call this the log sprite 2. Then we go over to our blueprints folder, right click and go blueprint class, select an actor and just call this the log blueprint, open it up, and we just want to go add and look for a sprite, paper sprite, and for the sprite just select the block sprite, and for this one just move it up. So this little grey circle is kind of the center. Right click on this and just go duplicate. We're going to change this to be the log sprite 2, and I'm just going to move this down. So something like this. So my bird is going to have to fly between this gap. I'll make it a bit bigger. Then in order to make this move, just go add and look for projectile movement. And if we go over to the details, go over to gravity and make this 0. We don't want this to be affected by gravity. Then go over to initial speed and max speed and make these 200. So the higher we make these values, the faster this log is going to move. Just compile this and save it. And if I drag the log blueprint somewhere into my level and just go play, okay, I can't see it. Just select it and you may need to rotate it so it's what, 180 degrees in the z-axis. And now if we go play, this log should move towards my player. Nice. You may have noticed when the log does hit our player, the camera gets kind of weird. In order to kind of fix that, just open up the log blueprint and select this sprite, scroll down and go to collision presets, change it to be custom, and for camera, make it ignore. And we just want to do the same for the second one here. We want this to ignore the camera if it ever is blocking it. Then go compile and save. And now if I play my game, it should not really affect the camera. Okay, next let's put this on the same layer as my bird. So my bird is in 0 and 0. I'm just going to select this and change it to be 0. And now if I play, this log is affecting my bird. Okay, nice. The log is a bit small, so what I'm actually going to do is just scale it to it's 3, and it's also 3 here. And I'm just going to move this down a bit, and I'll move this one up a bit. Okay. I'm also just going to move my player start just a bit up. Okay, so now if I play, we can see the logs are coming towards me. If I hit one, then nothing really happens apart from my character starts rotating. But with this, we've set up the basics of the log. Nice. The next thing we want to do is we want to make it so when the player hits a log, they basically have to stop moving. So if I just go over to my chicken blueprint, let's create a new variable and call it can move question mark. Compile this and just make sure it's checked. By default, the player will always be able to move. And when we press the right mouse button, if this can move is true, so I'll drag off here and look for a branch, then we'll allow our player character to kind of move up. However, if this is false, then we won't. Then if we just select the capsule, scroll down and make sure that simulate generate hit events is true. Then if we just right click and look for event hit, so whenever our player hits something, this is going to fire. Now the log is the only thing in my game, so when this is called, I know my player has hit a log. And when this happens, I just want to drag in the can move and set it, and I just want to set it so the player can no longer move. Then I also just want to drag in the chicken flipbook, drag off here and look for set flipbook, and we want to set it to be the chicken dead. Okay, and if I just go compile and go play, when I hit this log, we can see my chicken plays its death animation, and then I can't move. I also just want to move my spring arm back a bit, so I'm just going to increase the length, let's say make it 600. And then you may find when the player hits the log, they can sometimes like spaz through it. That is because we basically constrained the way our chicken moves. So where was it? So here in the physics we added some constraints. In order to fix this, whenever the player dies, we can just drag in the capsule, drag off here and look for set constrain mode, and set it to be the XZ plane. This just makes it normal again. And if I just go compile, when I hit something, I shouldn't like spaz through the log. I should just hit it, then I can no longer move. Nice. And then it's kind of pushing my chicken away. The next thing we're going to do is create a log spawner, which will basically continuously spawn logs in, which the player is going to have to avoid. So if we just go back to the log blueprint first, go over to the event graph, and event begin play, just add a delay of let's say 10 seconds, and after 10 seconds we are just going to destroy this log because it should no longer be on the screen. We can compile and save this, then right click and create a new blueprint class, select an actor, and just call this the log spawner blueprint. Open this up, and we just want to go over to the event graph, and then right click and look for add custom event, and just call it spawn log. When we call this event, we just want to drag off here and look for spawn actor from class. The actor is going to be the log blueprint, and where we spawn it, we can just right click and look for get actor transform, and then we just want to have a delay after we spawn it. Let's make it 1.5 seconds. Then after this, we just want to call the spawn log custom event again. So I'll just drag off here and look for spawn log, and then event begin play. We just want to call the spawn log. Then we can just compile this and save it. And then instead of having this log blueprint, let's delete it. Drag in our log spawner. Make sure it's 0 in the y-axis or whatever axis your player starts in. So if I just play my game, okay, so I just need to rotate my log spawner. So rotate it so it's 180, so it's facing the player. Okay, so that's looking good. It continuously spawns my log. Maybe I just want to move this back a bit so it's kind of off screen. And then we also want our logs to spawn at random heights. So we'll just go back to the log spawner, break this transform, and right click here and look for split structure pin. Right click here and also click split structure pin. We can connect rotation and scale. Although for the transform, we just want to drag off here and look for add operator. Right click here and look for split structure pin. And right click and look for random float in range. And let's have a minimum value of -100 and a max value of 100. Actually, let's make this -150 and 150. Connect this into Z and then into here. So all logs will basically be able to spawn with a random variance of 150 in the Z axis. Let's compile this and then go play. So when we start our game, we can see it's spawning logs in with a random location. I'm actually going to move my camera back in a bit. I just don't want to see the log spawner when I'm playing my game. Okay, so that's a bit better. Maybe 150 is a bit high, but you can play around with that. And you can also play around with the frequency, so maybe you want this to be, I don't know, 1.8. But it's all up to you. Next, to give the illusion that the player character is actually moving forwards, we're going to create a background which kind of moves behind the player character. So, to do this, let's go over to the assets folder and to the level folder. Select the background, right click and go create material. We can just call this the background material. Then you just want to right click and look for panner. And this kind of allows us to kind of move our texture. Connect this into here. Then if I just go to the speed here, we can kind of change how this material moves in the X and Y. So if I put 1 here in the X, you should see the material starts to rotate. That's very fast, so make it 0.1. And then one more thing, with our material, just select it, and we just want to change the shading model to be unlit, and connect this into emissive color. Then one more thing, just right click and look for texture coordinate, and connect this into here. So the texture coordinate node kind of allows us to make our texture repeat. So we can make it repeat in the X and Y, although I found just put 3 in the V tiling, and I'll actually show you what this does now. So if we just close this and then go over to our blueprint, create a new blueprint class, select an actor, and just call this the background blueprint, open this up, and then if we go add and look for a plane, rotate it, and then for the material, make it the background material we just made. So if I just go to the background material, if I make this U-tiling 3 as well, then go apply, you'll see how it kind of repeats on the top and the bottom. But if I just make this 1, and then I make this like, let's say 5, then it's gonna, whoops, we just want to go apply. And whoops, sorry, I got the order confused. If we make this something like 3 and this 1, and then go apply, it will repeat our texture a lot more in the U-tiling. If I make this 1, then it won't repeat as much. So it's up to you, but I thought I'd just show that. Okay, so next, just go select and scale objects. And I think in the project I tested, I made this like 50, and I made the Y like 20. And then I made the U-tiling like 3. And then we can just drag this somewhere into our level. Maybe I'll make it a bit closer. And I just moved it a bit closer. And then this background, sorry, this floor is kind of ruining it. So if we just go to search and look for visible and just uncheck it, we still want it to be there so the player has something to land on if they're hit. But just like this, it kind of gives the illusion that our player is moving forwards, even though the background and the logs are actually just moving. The next thing we're going to do is create a score system. So whenever the player flies through a log, we're going to give them 1 score. So inside of our blueprints folder, let's right click and go user interface, select a widget blueprint and select user widget. Call this the player HUD widget blueprint. We can open this up, and then in the palette I'm going to look for a canvas panel and just drag this in here. Then if we look for some text, let's drag it in and just anchor it to the top around here. And then for the font and size, let's make it 100, so it's quite big. And then just compile this. That's all we'll do for now. Head over to the chicken blueprint, go to the event graph, and we just want to create a new variable and call this score. For the variable type, make this an integer and just compile it. Then right click and look for add custom event and just call it increase score. So whenever we call this custom event, we want to drag in the score variable, drag off here and look for increment int. This will increase it by 1. Then we just want to compile this and go back to the player HUD widget blueprint and go over to the graph, and we just want to create a new variable, call it player, and then for the variable type, look for the chicken blueprint or whatever you called your character. Make it instance editable and expose on spawn, then just go compile. Now if we go over to the designer and I select this text, we can go bind, and because we have a variable reference to our player, we can also reference all of the variables inside of our player character. So if I go here where it says player, then select score, I can bind this text so it just displays my player's score. Compile this. Now in order for our HUD to actually get a reference to our player character, I made this instance editable and expose on spawn. So now if I go back to my player character and just find the event begin play node, event begin play, drag off here and look for create widget. The widget we're going to create is going to be the player HUD, and you're going to see it has this pin here. Drag off here and look for self, and this will basically give the HUD a reference to the player character. We can just right click and promote this to a variable and just call this the player HUD, then go compile. The next thing we need to do is actually make it so when the player flies through a log, they get they increase their score by 1. So if we go back to the log blueprint and we just want to go add and look for a box collision. Then just expand this box so it's between these two logs. Scroll down and go on component begin overlap. So when something overlaps this is going to fire. We just want to drag off other actor and cast to the chicken blueprint. So we're going to check to see if the chicken has overlapped this. If it has, then we just want to drag off here and look for increase score. And we just want to drag off here and look for do once. We only want this to ever happen once. Okay, then if we just go compile, close and play this. Oh, whoops, I forgot to add the HUD to the screen. So if we go back to the chicken blueprint. So after we create this, in order to actually see this, we just need to drag off here and look for add to viewport. Whoops, so I accidentally did that twice. We can compile this. And now if I go play and I press the right mouse button, whenever I fly through one of the woods, my score increases by 1. Nice. And let's say I hit, then my lose control and I can't move my chicken anymore. Okay, nice. Next, let's create a game over screen for when the player fails. So I'm just gonna right click, go use interface and select a widget blueprint, use a widget, and I'm actually just gonna call this the game over widget blueprint. We can open this up, go to the palette and look for a canvas panel, and then this time look for a vertical box. Drag this somewhere into the center of the screen and just anchor it there as well. Then look for some text, drag it in, and then just center it. And I'm going to make this a game over. And I'll increase the size of it so it's like 60. Then look for a horizontal box and just drag 2 of these into the vertical box. Then look for some text and drag 2 texts into each horizontal box. And then I'm just going to select this first text, make it say score, and then, whoops, I spelled that wrong. And then make this say high score. So this one will display the player's highest score. And everything's a bit close, so if we just select this vertical box and add a padding to the top of 100 and add a padding here of 100 to the top as well. And then that's all we'll do for now. Then just select this text, make it is a variable, and just make this just call this the player's score. Then select this text, make it is a variable, and just call this the player's high score. Compile this, and then we just want to close this, go over to our chicken blueprint, and when the player dies, we just want to drag off here and look for create widget. This widget will be the game over widget blueprint. We can promote this to a variable, call it the game over HUD. Then we just want to drag off here and look for get player score, and drag up here and look for set text, and we want this one, set text, connect this into here, then drag in the score and connect it into here. Then just go compile, and if I play my game now, and let's say I get 1 and then I die. Oh whoops, I forgot to add this to the viewport again. So after we do this, we just want to drag off here and look for add to viewport. Now if I go compile and I play my game, let me get a score of 1 and then die. So it says game over and then score 1. Nice. It was kind of hard to see anything else, so what I'm actually going to do is just go back to my game over screen and add a background blur. I will just drag this somewhere to my canvas panel. Then if I just select the background blur here, anchor it and select the bottom right one, and in the offset give this a value of 0, and then for the Z order make this -1. This will make it appear behind everything, and let's also just make these a bit bigger. So let's make them 45. And then for the background blur, just increase the blur strength to be something like 48. So my project just crashed, so make sure you just quickly save everything. And then if we go back to our chicken, after we show our game over screen, just drag up here and look for set game paused. And make sure this is checked. Compile that. And I'm just going to save everything. Okay, so if I hit this, it says game over, and then it shows my score. So the next thing we need to do is code a high score system. So we're going to use Unreal Engine save to basically save the player's score and save their high score. So I'm just going to go to my blueprint folder, right click, go blueprint class, and go to all classes and look for a save game. And just select it, and just call this the high score save. Open this up, create a new variable, and just call this save score. Change the variable type to be an integer, and just compile this. Then if we just go over to our chicken blueprint and go over to event begin play, before we do all of this, we can just drag off here and look for does save game exist. For the slot name, I'm just going to call this 1. This is what our save game is going to be called. I just normally call it 1. We're going to drag off here and look for branch. So it's first going to check to see if we have a save game under the slot name 1. If we don't, then what we're going to do is just drag off false and look for create save game object. For the save game object, we just want to select the high score save. Then we just want to drag off here and look for save game to slot and select 1. So this will create a new save game under the slot 1. So then if we run this again, this time we want to drag off true. If we do have a save game under slot 1, we want to drag off here and look for load game from slot, and that slot name is going to be 1. Then we just want to drag off here and look for cast to high score save, and just right click and promote this to a variable, and we can just call this our high score save reference, and then just connect from here into here, and from here into here, and then just go compile. Okay, so whenever the player dies, we want to check to see if they've beaten their all-time high score. So before we do all of this, I'm just going to move this back a bit. We are going to drag in their score, and we're going to check to see if this is greater than the high score save reference. So just get this. Then we want to get their save score. So if we look for get save score, then if this is true, we can drag off here and look for a branch. If it's true, then we can drag in our high score save reference again, drag off here and look for set save score, and we're going to set it to be whatever the player's score was. Then we just want to drag off here and look for save game to slot. For the slot name, we want this to be 1. Connect from here into here, here into here, and this will save our player's new high score. And if this is false, then we won't save our player's high score, and we can just connect from here to here. And then one more thing, in case this is our player's first time making the game, drag in the high score save reference, set it, and just connect from here to here, and here into here. That way the player will basically be able to reference this if it's their first time playing. If we didn't do this, then we'd get an error message when we try to run this, because we wouldn't have a reference to the high score save reference. Oh, and one more thing, if we just go back to our game over widget blueprint, we want to make sure that this text is a variable and is called high score. Then if we go back to our chicken, we can just drag off here and get the high score, drag off here and look for set text, and we want this one, set text text. And then for this, we can drag in the high score save reference, and then we can just get the save score variable and connect this into here. So now if we go compile and I go play, I already played this before and my high score was 1. So if, let's say, I get a new high score, so I'm going to try and get 2. Okay, I suck. Okay, so I got 2. And let's say I die this time, we can see my high score is 3. And if I just play this again and I die, then we can see my score is 0 and my high score is 3. So it saved that nicely. Nice. And if I just go back to my chicken blueprint, before I actually show the screen, I'm just going to have a delay of 3 seconds, because it's kind of nice to see the bird fall to the screen or the floor of the game like this. So maybe 3 seconds was a bit long, but it's completely up to you. And I may just move my character so they start up a bit. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is add some sound effects to our game. So there's this folder with some sound effects, and I have some sound effects of my bird when it's flapping. What we're going to do is we're going to make it so when the bird is kind of flapping, when we press the right mouse button, it's going to randomly play one of these sounds. To do this, if we just select all 4 of these sounds, so I'm holding shift, right click, then go create single cue, and we can just leave this as the SFX flap wing cue. If we open this up and I just go play cue, whenever I play this sound cue, it's going to randomly play one of these sounds. Nice. We also have some sound effects for when my player hits a wall or when they score. So if I just go back to my blueprint folder and to the chicken, I will go to event hit, and whenever I hit something, I only want this to occur once. So if we just drag off here and look for do once, and then drag off here and look for play sound at location, and the sound is going to be the obstacle, and then we can right click and look for get actor location and connect this into here. I'll copy this and go over to my right mouse button, just moving the nodes back a bit, and whenever I press the right mouse button, I will play my flap sound cue. We can compile and save this. Then finally go over to the log And whenever the player basically increases their score, actually, if we just do this in the player, when we increase their score, if we drag off here, look for play sound at location, and that sound will be the S of X score. I can drag off here and look for get out to location, and connect this into here. And we can compile this. So with this, we have added some sound effects to our game. Okay, nice. So the next thing we're going to do is create a main menu, and then we'll also make it so in our game over screen we can go to the main menu or we can quit our game. So when creating a main menu in Unreal Engine, I normally create it in a separate level. So I just go File, New Level. This time select an empty level. We want this level to be empty. Save everything, then just save this level and save it as the main menu. Then to save time, I'm just going to select my game over widget blueprint and duplicate it, and I'll call this my main menu widget blueprint. If I open this up, let us change this text to say Flappy chicken, and then I'm just going to delete these horizontal boxes. Instead, if we look for a button and drag 2 of these into the vertical box, then look for some text and drag each text into a button. Then for this button in the top, I'm going to add a padding of 100, and I'll also add a padding here. We can make this first text say play. We can make the second text say quit, and we can make both of these a bit bigger, so maybe 100. Then if we just select both of these buttons, make sure they is a variable, and I'll just call this my play button, and I'll call this my quit button. And if we just select the play button, scroll down and go on clicked, when we click this button, drag off here and look for open level by object reference. That level will be the, I just called it level. And then if I select the quit button, go on clicked, when I click the quit button, we can just drag off here and look for quit game, and this will quit our game. I can compile this, and then for my main menu levels, I normally make them have a game mode which has no game mode. So if we just right click, go blueprint class, select a game mode, and call this main menu. So I'm just going to drag this here, and then if we go to here and go open level blueprint, event begin play, if we drag off here and look for create widget, and for the widget just select the main menu and then add this to the viewport. Now if I click the play button and I click somewhere, my mouse is actually going to disappear. To prevent this, if we go to our main menu and event construct, so this will basically fire as soon as our main menu is loaded onto the screen. We want to right click and look for get player controller, drag off here and look for set show mouse cursor, check it. Then we just want to drag off here and look for set input mode UI only, and connect this into here and event construct into here. And now if I go compile and I play my game, when I click with my mouse it shouldn't disappear. And we also just want to copy this and add this to the game over widget blueprint. So I'll just paste this here and then go back to the main menu widget blueprint and just copy both of these buttons, go over to the game over one and just paste these buttons inside of the vertical box. And maybe I just need to fix the padding here, so I'm going to make this 0 and I'll make both of these smaller. And instead of saying play, I'm going to make this say retry. And then when I click this, I will open level by object reference and select level. And then when I click the quit button, I will quit my game. And for the main menu, I'm actually going to remove the background blur. So now if I click the play button and I play my game, I can play my game. Although one thing, because in our main menu, we set the input to be UI only, when I start my game, I actually can't control the player. So if we go back to the chicken blueprint and go to event begin play, we just want to right click and look for get player controller, drag off here and look for set show mouse cursor, and drag off here and look for set input game only. Then if we go compile and we go play, when I start the game, I can control my chicken. Nice. The final thing to do is just export the game. And before we package our project, if we just go edit and go project settings, go to maps and modes, and then go to the game default map. This is going to be the first map that the game takes us to when we've exported our game. We just want to make sure that this is the main menu. Then we can close this. Then go platforms, Windows, and package project. You may need to install Visual Studios before you can actually package a project. Then just select where you want to package your project. I've just selected my desktop. Then it will begin to do that. Your project should be in a folder called Windows, and it'll just be called whatever your Unreal Engine project's called. So mine's called Flappy game. I can open this up. It has my simple main menu, and if I go play, and I press the right mouse button, I can play my game. Okay, so maybe I made the range for the logs a bit high, but hopefully you get the point. So with that, we have coded Flappy Bird inside Unreal Engine from a completely blank project. That's all for this video. If you want to learn how to create even more games inside of Unreal Engine, make sure to check out my website. I've got a bunch of Unreal Engine courses there. And if you enjoyed, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.